The castle sat on the edge of a dark cliff, its black stone walls rising like jagged teeth against the blood-red moon. Wind howled through broken towers, carrying the scent of wet stone and decaying leaves. Shadows danced along the corridors, long and crooked, as if the very castle itself were alive. Inside, the halls were silent, except for the faint echoes of footsteps and the distant drip of water somewhere in the darkness. In the highest tower, behind tall, arched windows, a single room glowed with the flicker of candlelight. This was the chamber of Lady Alara, the Vampire King's only daughter. She lay on a grand bed, her skin pale as moonlight, her eyes half closed, a faint shiver passing through her fragile body. She had not smiled in many nights. The curse that had haunted her family for generations had finally found its mark. Her life was fading like a dying star, and nothing the kingdom's healers had tried could stop it. The door opened quietly, and a young woman stepped in. She was mortal, yet her presence did not seem out of place in this house of shadows. Nurse Seraphine carried herself with careful grace, her soft footsteps muffled by the thick rugs that lined the corridor. She had been summoned by the Vampire King himself, who rarely trusted outsiders. Yet for some reason, he had allowed this mortal into his daughter's private chambers. Ilara's eyes flickered open at the sound of the door. They were sharp, even in weakness, filled with suspicion and a strange, quiet anger. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I am Seraphine," the nurse said gently, bowing her head. "I am here to help you, my lady." Ilara's lips twisted into a faint smile, bitter and small. "Help me, or watch me die?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of curiosity and defiance. "I will try to help," Seraphine said softly, moving closer. She carried a small tray with herbs and tinctures, simple remedies against weakness and fever. "I cannot promise miracles, but I can ease your pain. Perhaps give you comfort in what little time remains." Ilara's gaze lingered on the tray, then returned to the young woman before her. "Comfort," she repeated, almost to herself. Her fingers twitched, weak and pale. "I have not known comfort in centuries." The nurse's heart ached at the words. She had expected fear, anger, even hatred, but not this quiet loneliness that seemed to hang around the princess like a second skin. "Then allow me to give it to you," Seraphine said. She knelt beside the bed and gently took Ilara's hand in hers. The princess flinched at first, but did not pull away. For a long moment, the two simply sat like that. Ilara's hand was cold, fragile, and yet there was a pulse beneath the skin, a stubborn, quiet heartbeat that refused to give in to the curse. Seraphine's fingers tightened slightly around hers. She did not speak. She simply let the silence stretch, letting the room fill with a sense of calm that had not existed here in decades. Finally, Ilara whispered, her voice trembling, "You do not fear me, not as the others do." Seraphine shook her head. "Fear does not help anyone," she said simply. "I will not leave because I am afraid. I am here to help you, not to judge." The princess's eyes softened, just slightly. There was a spark there, fragile but alive, a flicker of something that had long been buried under centuries of darkness. "Then, perhaps I can trust you," Ilara said. Her lips curved into the faintest of smiles, like a flower blooming in frost. For hours, Seraphine tended to her, adjusting blankets, offering sips of tea, and applying the simple remedies she had brought. Ilara did not speak much. But when she did, it was in fragments, half-formed thoughts, memories of a childhood long ago, stories of nights under stars that had been brighter before the shadows claimed the castle. "You once told me," Ilara murmured at one point, "that the moon can see all our secrets. Does it see mine?" Seraphine placed her hand over the princess's. "Perhaps, but secrets shared with those who care are lighter. The moon may see them, but it cannot take them from you." Ilara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I have so many secrets, and yet I have no one who could bear them, not even my father." Her voice was a whisper, breaking slightly. "He loves me. I know. But he fears the curse more than me. And I am frightened. No. No." Seraphine's grip on her hand tightened slightly. "Then you are not alone tonight," she said softly. "I am here. And I will stay." The candlelight flickered, casting long shadows across the walls, and Alara's hand trembled. "Do you understand the curse?" she asked. Her voice was a fragile thread, barely carrying across the space between them. "I have heard of it," Seraphine admitted. "But I do not need to understand every shadow to care for you. I will face whatever comes, as long as I am here with you." A tear rolled down Alara's cheek, startling even her. She brushed it away with the back of her hand, then looked at Seraphine with something like awe. No one has ever said such things to me. Not in all my years. Not in all my pain." Seraphine smiled faintly, though her heart ached at the sight of the dying princess. "Perhaps it is time someone did," she said. The hours passed in quiet companionship. Outside, the wind continued to howl, and the castle seemed to groan under the weight of its own history. Elara spoke in whispers now, fragments of old fears and unspoken regrets. Seraphine listened, never interrupting, never judging. For the first time in centuries, the princess felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she had thought lost forever. Then, as the night deepened, Elara's hand grew weaker in Seraphine's grasp. Her lips moved, and Seraphine leaned closer. "The curse," the princess whispered, barely audible. It will take me soon. Unless what?" Seraphine asked, her voice tense. Elara's eyes locked onto hers, filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "Unless someone loves me, truly, without fear, without hesitation." Her voice faltered, a fragile thread of sound. "Only then can it be undone." Seraphine's heart pounded. She had heard of curses before, in old tales whispered by grandmothers and scribes, but never one so heavy, so impossibly cruel. And yet, as she looked at the pale, trembling princess before her, she felt a certainty rising deep within her chest. She would not turn away. Elara's eyelids fluttered, exhaustion threatening to pull her under. Seraphine gently held her close, brushing a lock of hair from her face. The candlelight flickered, casting the room in shadows and gold. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The castle, the wind, the darkness all held their breath. Finally, the princess whispered again, her voice barely audible. "If you truly care, if you stay, perhaps there is hope." Seraphine tightened her hold, refusing to let go. "I will stay," she said simply, and the words hung in the air like a promise, fragile but unbroken. Outside the window, the blood-red moon drifted behind a cloud, casting the room in shadow. Yet inside, a quiet light lingered, the light of trust, of compassion, of a bond that had begun to form in the deepest darkness. And though the curse still loomed, though the shadows still waited, Seraphine knew one truth. She would not abandon the princess. Not now. Not ever. And in that moment, as Elara's hand rested in hers, something subtle but undeniable shifted in the air. The ancient castle, long a place of despair and silence, seemed to hum with possibility. The dying princess had whispered a truth that could change everything. And the mortal nurse, her hand in the vampire's delicate palm, had answered. The night stretched on, heavy and still. Somewhere in the distance, a clock told midnight. The shadows stirred, restless. The curse watched, patient and cruel. But in the chamber of the dying princess, two hearts clung to each other, and the faintest flicker of hope began to grow. And then, just before sleep claimed the princess entirely, she whispered one last fragile sentence, a breath of wind and hope. The curse. It may yet be broken, if you do not turn away. Seraphine squeezed her hand, her voice steady, unwavering. I will not turn away. Outside, the wind howled through the shattered castle. But inside, for the first time in centuries, the darkness felt less complete. The first light of dawn barely touched the castle's jagged walls. Inside, Lady Alara still lay in her chamber, pale as the mist that swirled around the cliffs below. The night had been long, filled with whispered words and fragile promises. Nurse Seraphine had remained by her side, keeping her hand in hers through the long hours, refusing to leave. The bond they had begun to form was unspoken but undeniable, fragile yet strong, like glass catching sunlight. Alara stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at Seraphine and managed a small, faint smile. You stayed, she whispered. I promised, Seraphine replied, her voice steady, though her heart pounded with unspoken fear. I will not leave. The princess sighed, a soft, shivering sound. The curse. It grows stronger with every sunrise, she said. I can feel it within me, like a shadow climbing into my chest, pulling at my breath. Sometimes, I think it will consume me before I can even speak again. Seraphine tightened her grip, refusing to let the fear take root. Then we must fight it together, she said. Tell me what I must do, and I will do it. Alara's eyes softened, but there was still sorrow there, ancient and deep. It is not something simple, Seraphine. It is tied to my blood, to the line of my family, to the very essence of who I am. The curse has lived in my family for centuries. Many tried to lift it, many failed, and many died. I am not afraid, Seraphine said, her voice unwavering. She looked into Alara's pale eyes, searching for the spark of the girl who had been born centuries ago, before the shadow of the curse had touched her. I am here because I care, not because I fear it, not because I seek reward. Alara blinked, something almost like wonder passing across her delicate features. Seraphine nodded. I do. The princess drew a trembling breath. Then perhaps there is hope. The first rays of light were cutting across the castle's towers, though the red moon still lingered faintly in the sky. But hope alone is not enough. The curse. It will test you. It will try to take you from me, to push you away, to make you afraid. Seraphine's grip on her hand tightened. I will not turn away, she said. For hours, the two remained in that quiet chamber, speaking in soft whispers. Alara told stories of the castle before the curse had taken hold. The great feasts, the laughter of servants, the joy of her father in times long past. Seraphine listened, captivated by the glimpses of life behind the shadow. She marveled at the princess's strength, the courage it took to smile even when she was fading. But the peace of the morning was not meant to last. A shadow stirred in the corners of the castle, moving silently, watching. The curse was patient, ancient, and cunning. It had waited centuries for a chance to strike, to pull the princess further into darkness. Now, it sensed the bond forming between the mortal nurse and the dying vampire. It was a threat to its long dominion. Alara shivered suddenly, her eyes widening. Do you feel that? She whispered. Seraphine frowned, scanning the dim corners of the room. Feel what? The shadows, Alara said, her voice trembling. They are restless, angry. They know that something has changed. Before Seraphine could respond, the candlelight flickered violently. throwing the room into deep shadows. A chill passed through the chamber, and the air seemed to grow heavy, as if the walls themselves were pressing inward. The princess gasped, clutching at Seraphine's hand. "They are testing us," she whispered. "The curse. It will try to drive you away, to break your courage. You must not falter." Seraphine's heart pounded, but she held her ground. "I am not afraid," she said. "Whatever comes, I will face it. With you." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the shadows began to shift, forming shapes at the edges of vision. Dark, twisting forms that seemed alive, reaching for the princess. Seraphine could feel the chill of the curse pressing against her, probing for weakness. Elara whispered, her voice barely audible, "Do not look away. Do not let them frighten you." Seraphine tightened her grip, staring directly at the darkness. "I will not." The shapes writhed, swirling around the room, and the castle seemed to groan under the weight of ancient power. But Seraphine stood firm, refusing to let fear take her heart. She felt the power of the princess within her grasp, the fragile, stubborn pulse of life that had refused to die, and she drew strength from it. Hours passed like this, with shadows testing their bond, trying to snuff out the fragile hope that had begun to grow between them. And through it all, the princess held Seraphine's hand, whispering encouragement and trust. "You are stronger than the curse knows. If you falter, I may." Her voice trembled, but she did not finish. Seraphine leaned closer. "Do not say it. Do not let the curse win by fear. I am here. Always." The princess's eyes glistened with tears. You make me feel alive," she whispered, "even in this darkness." By evening, exhaustion weighed heavily on them both. Elara lay back on her bed, drained but smiling faintly. "Tomorrow, we must begin," she said. "I know of an old ritual, one that may counter the curse, but it is dangerous, and it requires trust and courage and something more, something only you can give." Seraphine's heart tightened. "Tell me. I will do anything." The princess turned her gaze toward the darkened corners of the room, her voice dropping to a whisper. "The ritual. It requires a bond of the heart. Not of fear, not of duty, but of true care. Someone willing to risk themselves for me, to face the shadows, to stand by me, even if the curse tries to destroy them. Only then can it begin to weaken." Seraphine's chest tightened with fear and determination. "I am that person," she said. "I will not leave you. I will not falter." Elara's hand trembled in hers, and she leaned forward just enough to whisper something that made Seraphine's breath catch. "If you succeed, if you truly remain, perhaps I will live, and perhaps we will both find something we have never known, something brighter than darkness." A silence fell over the chamber. Outside, the red moon still lingered, and the wind howled against the castle walls. The shadows were quiet for now, as if waiting, biding their time. But Seraphine could feel them, lingering at the edges of vision, patient and cruel. She pressed her hand gently against the princess's, feeling the faint pulse of life, fragile but stubborn, and whispered back, "Then we will face them together. No matter what comes." Ilara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "I believe you," she said, "and in believing, I may survive." The night deepened, heavy and still. Candlelight flickered across the walls, casting long shadows that danced like ancient spirits. Seraphine sat beside the princess, holding her hand, refusing to let the darkness creep in. For the first time, Elara felt warmth where she had only known cold. For the first time, she felt hope. And in the quiet, fragile hours of the night, a subtle change began to take root. The shadows, sensing the strength of the bond, stirred uneasily. The curse would not give up easily. But for now, in the highest tower of the crumbling castle, two hearts clung to each other. And even in the deepest darkness, there was a spark that refused to die. The night was thick with shadows, heavier than any before. The castle seemed alive with anticipation, its stone walls groaning as if they remembered centuries of sorrow. Lady Ilara lay on her bed, her pale hands trembling, her breath shallow. The ritual to break the ancient curse would begin soon, and the air itself seemed charged with invisible power. Every shadow in the castle stirred, as if waiting to see whether the bond between her and Seraphine would be strong enough to survive. Seraphine knelt beside her, brushing a lock of silvered hair from Ilara's face. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, though she already knew the answer. She could see the faint determination in the princess's eyes, and the fragile pulse of life that still beat stubbornly beneath the cold skin. Ilara nodded faintly. "I am. If you are," she whispered. "If you falter, it will fail. If you fear, the shadows will claim me. But I trust you." Seraphine's heart tightened. "I will not falter. I will not fear. I am here with you." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, as the first chant of the ritual began, the candle flames around the chamber flickered violently, casting long, twisting shadows across the walls. The ancient words, soft and melodic, flowed from Seraphine's lips. They were simple words, yet filled with courage, love, and resolve, the only power that could challenge the centuries-old curse. Ilara's fingers twitched as the shadows around them writhed, dark shapes twisting and stretching, trying to pull at the fragile pulse of life within her. The castle shook, and the air grew colder. But Seraphine did not waver. She held the princess's hand firmly, anchoring her to the world of the living. "Do not let them frighten you," Ilara whispered, her voice weak but steady. "If you falter, they will take me." "I will not falter," Seraphine said, her voice rising over the howling wind that seemed to press against the tower walls. "I am here, always." The shadows surged, forming shapes that reached toward the princess, dark and twisting like smoke given form. The curse tried to break their bond, testing their courage, testing the strength of their hearts. Ilara's breathing grew shallow, her body trembling under the invisible weight of centuries of magic. "Hold my hand," Ilara whispered, her lips barely moving. "Do not let go. Even if it hurts." Seraphine tightened her grip, feeling the chill of the curse seep into her bones, but refusing to release her hold. "I will not let go. I will not leave you." The shadows screamed silently, the air vibrating with ancient malice, and for a moment, it seemed as if all hope might vanish. Ilara's eyes flickered, pain and fear mingling with the faint spark of trust she had placed in Seraphine. "You are brave," she whispered. "Braver than I could have imagined. Perhaps there is a chance." Seraphine leaned closer, pressing her forehead gently against Ilara's. "We will see it through together. Whatever comes, we face it together." The ritual continued, the ancient words weaving a fragile net of light around the princess's body. Slowly, the shadows began to recoil, hissing like wind through dry leaves. The bond between Seraphine and Ilara glowed faintly in the dim candlelight, a soft warmth pushing back the cold tendrils of the curse. The vampire king entered the chamber silently, drawn by the force of the ritual. His eyes, normally sharp and cold, widened in disbelief as he watched the mortal nurse hold his daughter's hand with unwavering courage. He had ruled for centuries, feared by all, yet he had never seen a mortal face the darkness so boldly. "Seraphine," he whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and caution. "Do you understand what you are doing?" "I understand," she said, her gaze unwavering. "I am giving everything I have." everything I am, to protect her, to save her. The king's stern expression softened for the first time in centuries. He saw the truth in her eyes, the courage that not even time and darkness could erase. He stepped back, allowing them to continue, silently hoping the ancient power of love could do what centuries of magic had failed to achieve. Outside, the wind howled, and the castle seemed to tremble under the pressure of the shadows. The curse fought back with all its might, clawing at Ilara's body, whispering doubts into her mind. But Seraphine's presence was a shield, her courage a beacon. And slowly, the darkness began to fracture. Ilara's fingers twitched in response, her pulse growing stronger, steadier. She looked at Seraphine, eyes wide with a fragile hope. It is working," she whispered. "Yes," Seraphine replied, her voice firm but gentle. "You are stronger than this curse. We are stronger together." The shadows screamed one final time, twisting violently, and then began to dissolve into nothingness. The room grew still, the candle flames calm once more. The heavy chill lifted, leaving only the faint scent of old stone and candle wax. The curse, so long unbroken, had begun to fade. Ilara's body slumped slightly, exhaustion taking hold. But she smiled faintly. I feel lighter," she whispered. "The shadows, they are gone. Or at least, weaker." Seraphine pressed her hand to the princess's cheek. "You have fought bravely, and you are not alone. The curse may have tested us, but together, we endured." Tears filled Ilara's eyes, not of fear, but of gratitude and relief. I have never known such courage, such care, not in all my centuries." She paused, her breath trembling. Perhaps I can live, not only because of the ritual, but because of you." Seraphine's chest tightened at the words. "You will live," she said. For the first time in what felt like eternity, Ilara laughed softly, a sound as fragile as porcelain, but full of life. I feel alive," she whispered. "Truly alive, for the first time, since before the curse claimed me." The Vampire King stepped forward, his expression softening, a rare smile touching his lips. "Seraphine," he said quietly, "you have done what no spell or potion could achieve. You have given her life, with your courage, with your heart." Seraphine bowed her head slightly, humbled. "I only did what I could. She trusted me, and I could not betray that trust." Ilara's hand trembled slightly, reaching up to touch Seraphine's cheek. "You held my hand," she whispered, "and in doing so, you held my heart. Never let it go." Seraphine's eyes met hers, and in that moment, no words were needed. The bond between them was sealed not by magic alone, but by courage, care, and unwavering trust. The curse had been broken, not by power or fear, but by the strength of a mortal heart willing to face the darkness for someone else. The Vampire King watched them in silence, a weight lifting from his ancient shoulders. He had ruled with fear for centuries, but now he understood something he had long forgotten. Even in darkness, even in shadow, light could exist. Even in the coldest castle, even in the deepest curse, love could ignite a spark that would not be extinguished. Ilara leaned against Seraphine, still weak but smiling, her eyes reflecting the first true warmth she had felt in centuries. "Perhaps I will live, and perhaps we will see a dawn brighter than any I have known." Seraphine held her close, the candlelight flickering across their faces, casting long shadows that no longer felt threatening. "We will see it together," she said softly. "Whatever comes, we face it together." And for the first time in centuries, the castle seemed to sigh, releasing the tension of years of sorrow. Outside, The first pale light of dawn touched the cliff, turning the blood-red moon to soft silver. The world beyond the castle waited. But within the tower, there was only warmth, trust, and hope. Ilara's lips curved into a gentle smile. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not leaving me, for holding my hand, for holding my heart." Seraphine pressed her forehead to hers. "Always," she whispered back. The shadows of the past had been faced, the curse weakened, and two hearts, one mortal, one immortal, had found strength in each other. In the quiet of the castle, under the first light of dawn, they knew that the bond they shared could withstand anything, even centuries, even darkness, even curses. And for the first time in centuries, Lady Ilara truly believed in a future beyond fear.